Well, from Nollywood to Nigerian electricity, I hope it doesn't depress you. There's a new tariff in town, no pun intended. Nigerian electricity consumers are having to deal with a rather complicated payment system for the use of the scarce product. But that doesn't appear to be the major problem. Availability of it is what everyone has been talking about, including producers and manufacturers of goods. Has power supply improved since the introduction of the new tariff regime? And how is the situation affecting the manufacturing sector in Lagos and indeed the rest of the country? To explore these a little further, we're now being joined by Gabriel Idahosa, who is the president and chairman of Board of Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Good morning, Mr. Idahosa, and welcome to the morning show today.
Good morning.
Good morning indeed.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Thank you indeed. I want to hazard a guess that you are probably in an area where, it is designated as Band A. How is electricity supply in your area? And secondly, from a manufacturer's point of view, what do you make of the new tariff regime on electricity? And how do you think that it will affect business, ease of doing business, and manufacturing generally?
Well, the first part of the question, here in the band, we are in the Band A. We were told we were in Band A. The power supply has been more or less the same as before the announcement, so we have not seen any significant difference. We have some amount of regular power supply in this area, so we are probably in the Band A, but we are not working it out, calculating whether we are actually getting 20 hours or not. For the manufacturing industry, it is another, so many whammies now, you can't say double or treble whammy. Manufacturing and business generally, since the various policies came on board, have been getting hits from removal of fuel subsidy, unification of the currency, and then steady increases in various charges by the state, the federal, and all of that. So this new tariff, was supposed to be done sometime in the last quarter of 2023. The business community felt it was too early, way too early to put another hit on what they were already going through. Then government said, okay, they will push it forward. And we were hoping they would push it forward through perhaps the later part of this year. But right in the first quarter of 2024, that has come. What that means is that about 300% in the costs of power that is supplied by the public utilities to every manufacturer, and 300% is a very large figure to add to your cost, especially where you get a reasonable amount of supply, and therefore it is perhaps your primary supply or a very important secondary supply that you want to use when you are not using your generators or any other sources. So it's a huge increase in cost, a very huge increase in cost. We have visited some factories since it was announced, and we are being told that it's a very, very significant increase in cost. And like every other hit that came, we in the business community are trying to navigate it, see how we can deal with it without having to fire people at the end of the day, because once your costs are rising more than the price you can sell a product in the market, then you probably don't want to continue to produce that product or service. So we are in that situation where we are looking at it and deciding what needs to do. Initially now, everybody's navigating it, trying to cope with the higher costs and reduce profits. But there's so much time that particularly the small and medium enterprises can do that. The bigger ones, the very large industries already have some cheaper alternative power already that they had built into their infrastructure. But the small and medium enterprises usually depend either on the public supply or generators. And between both of them, diesel gone up, petrol gone up, now tariff gone up. So it is like wherever you turn, you are being hit by rising costs. So yes, the business community is really seriously hit. And we hope that it will not lead to significant layoff of staff as we try to cope with it in the business community.
Thank you, sir. As you said, tariffs have gone up, the price of petrol has gone up, the price of diesel has gone up, the Naira has fallen in the last year, even though we have seen some improvement in the last couple of weeks. But in addition to that, interest rates have also been raised by the Central Bank of Nigeria. So I want to ask that, how are manufacturers dealing with all these new difficulties since the election of the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu? And do you believe that the government is doing enough to help businesses through this tough period? Because some analysts are now saying that Nigeria may be facing a recession by the end of Q3 of this year. So do you think that small and medium enterprises, as you've highlighted, are being helped enough by the government of Bola Ahmed Tinubu?
Well, the government has come out with certain measures. We have the 200 billion injection into the business community, the manufacturers, the SMEs, and other nano industries. But 200 billion in a country like Nigeria is quite a small amount. You are looking at 36 states. By the time you spread 200 billion across 36 states, we have in this country about 48 million small and medium enterprises. That's the official statistics from the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics. So if you try to spread 75 billion, which is what is available from 200 billion for small and medium enterprises across 48 million small and medium enterprises across 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory, you begin to see a sense of how small it is in terms of having an impact. So we see that government is doing something, but what it's doing, obviously government itself can see that it will not significantly affect the prospects of all of them getting out of the difficulties. So a lot of small businesses are struggling. Many of them have closed down and the owners have come back into the labor market. But we hope that gradually some of these measures will begin to bring some results. We are already seeing public transportation coming down with the CNG buses in the states that already have CNG buses. Commuters, workers are reporting much reduced transport costs. So that, for us, is a very important low-hanging fruit. The government can fast-track a rapid deployment of these buses so that workers can see a really significant reduction in transport costs. That will be the first win. The second win, of course, is the foreign currency. We are beginning to see that happen. And generally, business community is saying that the central bank and, of course, the fiscal side, the federal government, should continue to work very closely together to see the exchange rate continue to come down steadily. It needs to come down steadily to, if possible, in fact, even if lower than the heights that it was before the new administration started. We cannot win all the wars at the same time, but it's important that government takes those that it can win and run with it. Let's rapidly reduce public transportation costs. Let's begin to bring down the foreign exchange rate. And then the big elephant in the room, of course, is security, because all over the 36 states, almost all the 36 states, farmers cannot go to farm because they are afraid of their lives anytime they try to farm. So long as we have insecurity in our farmlands, food prices will be high because you need to produce a lot more food than we are producing now to bring down prices. So government has all those issues to deal with, but we think that where government can succeed now, rapidly bring down transportation costs, steadily reduce the exchange rates, and then begin to address security in a manner that will let people go to farm and small businesses go out to do their businesses. If those three things continue in the trajectory we are seeing now, and of course, security includes the Niger Delta and the production of oil, because when production of oil comes down, we have less foreign exchange. The pressure on the foreign currency to go up comes again. So those perhaps four things, that if government cannot do everything, it can just take about 3 or 4 things and focus on them, and let us begin to see that transport is coming down rapidly across the country. That will be something that every Nigerian can feel. So really, that's what we are expecting government to do. It cannot significantly increase the amount of funds that it had brought available. The 200 billion definitely will make a little dent on the need of small businesses and medium enterprises. But that is something. If government can increase that will help. But more important is address what touches the life of everyone. A lot more energy needs to go into public transportation to bring down, because a formula has been established. The CNG is already established. It is working. But it's now to scale it up so that every state in this country, every local government in this country begin to see CNG buses and vehicles running around and bringing down public costs. That reduction in transport costs will cause reduction in even food prices, because an important part of food prices is the transportation from farm to factory, from factory to market. So dealing with transportation costs will help not only the business community, but the rest of Nigerians, because every Nigerian must move every day from their house to somewhere. So I guess those are the things that are easy for government to do now. The long-term one of really bringing security down to the level where every Nigerian can go to farm and stay there for as long as we do. Usually farmers will leave their house very early in the morning before dawn and spend the whole day in the farm and come back home safely. We need to get back to that stage, but it will take a lot of time for that to happen. But other things that can be done now, we believe government should put a lot more effort in them so that we begin to see some benefits of these new policies.
All right, sir. I mean, those are key, very important suggestions and submissions there on the areas that government should focus on. But I want us to stay a little bit more on the power question. The Minister of Power, Abayo Adelabu, has apologized for what many people consider to be an insensitive comment about switching off your ACs and your freezers and stuff. But a lot of people still say that that's not sufficient because people are not convinced that the new tariff will come with improved power supply. And that the argument that the rich who are in the band A's, especially and band B, will fund those who are in the lesser bands, it's not visible yet because there hasn't been any appreciable increase in power supply generally. What are you doing specifically, and I'm talking in terms of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, in terms of interfacing with, say, the Honorable Minister of Power or the Coordinating Minister of the Economy on the areas that you have highlighted, so that the beautiful suggestions you are giving do not just end up in newspapers and on TV? Are there ways that you are directly interfacing with government? Because at a 300% increment in power supply, it simply means that some manufacturers carry the cost. They would take the cost to the consumers, and at the end of the day, inflation is also impacted. Nothing will have changed. People will continue to struggle. What are the specific things that you are doing as a body to ensure that there is a speedy improvement, especially in the area of power?
Well, not just in power. Across the economy, we are constantly engaging with various government agencies, including the presidency, including Mr. Governor here in Lagos State. Just 3 weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago, we had the special advisor to the president on the ease of doing business in the Lagos Chamber, and we had about 3 hours of very intense conversations around all this, including power. And definitely, the special advisor to the president went with a lot of information, materials, and suggestions that we have made to government. As we speak, we are in communication with a couple of the ministers. That's what we do. That Lagos Chamber of Commerce has nothing more important than public policy advocacy, and we do that every day. We have departments, two or three departments in Lagos Chamber of Commerce that work around advocacy and interfacing with the business community. So a lot of what we do, of course, is much more than our press statements that you referred to. We continue to do these press statements because we think it's also important for the business community at large, beyond the Lagos Chamber of Commerce, and the public who are not even in the business community, to be part of the conversation. But other than that purpose of getting everybody to be part of the conversation. We have been here since 1888, and we have been part of every government, from federal government to state government since then, even the colonial government. So our level of engagement is very intense because that's what it was set up for 836 years ago. But of course, it's not every day we meet with government officials so that we come and say we have met with this minister or we have met with this governor or this commissioner. But definitely there's a lot of intense conversations going on. And some of the decisions that that come out, we don't want to take credit, of course, for major government interventions that result from, say, the Lagos Chamber of Commerce or the rest of the organized private sector. That is what it should be. But they do respond, and like I referred in the course of my earlier comments, this power price increase would have happened last year. Government really wanted to do it last year, around the third quarter of last year. But the engagement of the public and, of course, the organized private sector, including the Lagos Chamber of Commerce, convinced government that it was too early to add another big hit on top of the two ones we were dealing with: the removal of currency, the unification of the currency, the removal of fuel subsidy, increase in interest rates, as you said. There were all these things that businesses were dealing with. And government said, okay, we hear you, we are going to move it forward, but we need to do it because the price of gas is going up, and to produce power, you need gas. And so it was moved. Yeah, we also feel that the increase can be calibrated. So rather than increase by 300% once, you can say, maybe the first quarter you do 15, 20%. Second quarter you do another 10, 30%. Maybe over a few months, over 3 or 4 quarters, you can still get to about 300% increase. But the argument of government is that the gas producers are not waiting to increase their prices. They are increasing their prices. The gas producers are private businesses. The power generating companies are private businesses that are funded by private investments. And those investors expect returns from their investment. So government is caught in that situation where it has been subsidizing. What it is struggling with, which the Minister of Power said, is reducing the level of subsidy by this increase in price. So we in the business and the public are looking at it from our perspective. Government is on the other side dealing with those issues. So we definitely continue with that engagement. There is hardly any week that we don't have engagements with a particular government agency or not. In the case of power, we are very much engaged with the Lagos State government. We believe we are on the same page with the Lagos State government that Lagos State in particular can quickly move to universal power access so that every individual in Lagos should have uninterrupted power. The Lagos State is doing some work on that. We are also cooperating with them. You know, there is now the Lagos State electricity market law that is almost done. When that law is done, we expect to see a lot more investment in power in Lagos, and we are part of that conversation. We are aware of those investors that are coming. So the difficulties we are going through now will continue for a while, just like the removal of petrol issue resulted in high transportation costs, and now we are gradually seeing the relief from that as the CNG buses are coming. We are gradually seeing the lowering of foreign currency exchange rate because of what the CBN is doing. So this large increase in power is going to trigger a lot of investment. There are a lot of investors, some of whom have come to us in the chamber, in Lagos Chamber of Commerce, to say, we want to see the Lagos electricity law. We are ready to invest in the power in Lagos. These conversations will translate to projects in the near future. We are talking of 6 months, 9 months. You will see a lot more power investment. Renewable energy, for example, a lot of solar power projects are being designed and being developed now by various investors in Lagos. There's a wind-driven power projects also being developed. But as you said, there's a lot of hardship. So when there's hardship, everybody is looking at the hardship now and just hoping that the period of the hardship will not be very long. But certainly, what we know and see from our engagement with government is that just as we have seen with the CNZ buses, a lot of the other projects will manifest over time. We now know, for example, that the geometric power plant in Abia, which took about 20 years to do, is now up and running. And investors are now going to Abia because they are guaranteed uninterrupted power supply. So these projects take a while to do, but while it's being done, we are suffering. So we have to keep saying we are suffering and asking government to do the little relief they can give to reduce the suffering while these projects come to fruition. That is the transition stage we are in as a country.
Thank you, sir. So now I want to ask, apart from these CNG buses and apart from the solar and wind, renewable energy sources that are being developed, what other policies or what other projects are going to be manifesting or should we be expecting to come in the future? As somebody who engages in government, I imagine that you do know some of the projects that we should be looking forward to, because as you said, there is a difficult period that we are in right now, and we just hope it's as short as possible. It's being reported. Of course, the Nigerian breweries is closing down 2 of its 9 locations and the factories. And so this difficult time that we're seeing might impact people's jobs. So are we expecting further job losses or further shutdowns in the manufacturing sector in Nigeria? And also, what other policies or what things that are making us better should we be expecting to materialize over the short-term period, shorter than hopefully the 20 years in Abia State?
You see, generally, Nigeria is such a large country, and there's so much happening at any point, that what catches the public attention is the biggest elephant in the room, where the biggest issues is. But I can tell you, as someone in the midst of all of this, that almost every month a new factory or project is being commissioned. It could be very high-tech industries. It could be a new food processing plant in Ogun State. It could be a new specialist hospital. It could be a new factory for electronics. A lot of projects are being completed, but they don't all come to announce that, oh, we are doing this or we are doing that. Because naturally, for a country like Nigeria, you won't be doing that all the time. But the economy is in a flux. Some sectors are suffering. Other sectors are doing well. The ICT sector, for example, the creative sector is doing extremely well. A lot of new production facilities are being developed in that space. And so it is the balance of the upswing and the downswing that we see that becomes the growth of the country. But I really can't name how many there are. Even those that I know are very many I can't name, let alone a lot I don't know around the country. And we try to remind ourselves that we are not a mono industry anymore. We are not an oil and gas economy. We are not an agriculture economy. The economy is now very widely diversified. And in the space of young business people, you'll be amazed at what a lot of young business people are doing around the country. If we take time, as we do, we have what we call a young business owners group in the chamber. And you see the kind of things that young people are doing with their creativity across all industries, not just ICT. You will see, not just expect or hope. We see that there's a future in this country, that a lot is happening that is not coming to the limelight. For example, when Nollywood started, nobody thought anything was happening for many years. And then today, Nollywood is what it is. So that is happening in several sectors. Nigerian companies are setting up tech labs around Africa, in Kenya, in Rwanda, in South Africa. Nigerian tech companies are providing services to, so in some cases, 40, 50 African countries out of Nigeria. And a lot of people don't know that. So a lot is happening, but because we are such a large country, 200 million people, it requires a lot of economic growth for you to feel it, for everybody to feel it. So those who are doing well, they are smiling to the bank quietly. But the rest of us who are struggling are the ones, of course, crying to the media and everybody to say we are suffering. So there is a balance that is going on in terms of the transition we are going through. But what we are essentially in the public conversation concentrating on is the enablers. The primary enabler is power. You need power for every other thing to happen, whether it's food preservation, whether it's agriculture, whether it's the ICT, the tech, whether it's the creative industry. So that's why the conversation is around these main issues: power, food, transportation. But there's a lot of development going on around.
Okay. All right, thank you so much. But before we let you go, just a very quick one from here, sir. And it's essentially to know your thoughts and how the private sector is taking the things coming out of the CBN. You have, you have had kind words for the CBN's reforms and things that they are doing. But in terms of MPR, moving from 2.75% all of a sudden to 24.75%. And then CBN also saying that, there will be a new minimum capital requirement for banks. There's a report that says that 17 out of the 24 that we have may struggle, to reach that threshold. What are your thoughts? What's the private sector thinking? Very briefly, sir, around these two important developments.
Okay, very quickly, the central bank of any country tries to manage three forces: interest rates, inflation, and the exchange rates. That is the job of the CBN in any country, to manage those three forces to ensure that there is stability in the economy. The central bank at this time in our history has decided that the biggest of those three is the foreign exchange rate. So it has said, we will try to bring down the foreign exchange rate and pay the price of increased interest rates, increased MPR, and high inflation for some time. That is essentially, in summary, what the CBN is doing right now. It understands that at 24% MPR, a lot of industries cannot borrow anymore. But these are transitional situations. The CBN is clear in their mind that the first thing is bring down this runaway exchange rate. We can't afford Nigerian foreign currency touching 2,000 to the 2,000 naira to the dollar, because the economy is much stronger than that. And the reason why it happened were distortions in the economy because of the previous policies of the central bank. So the central bank wants to deal with that first. When that stabilizes, then central bank will begin to reduce the MPR definitely. And so in summary, as perhaps there isn't much time to go into more detail, that is what is happening now. We are not happy about it. It's just like the increase in the power rates of Band A. The increase in interest rates is also hitting us. But we know why those decisions were taken. We are saying they are hitting us, but we understand the context in which they are happening and the very, very high likelihood of us beginning to see the results.
All right.
In the near future. We are seeing the results already in the foreign currency. Reduction in interest rates will come down the road once the foreign currency stabilizes.
All right, then. Very well said, Mr. Gabriel Idahosa. I want to thank you for joining us on the morning show today. Thank you so very much.